Mr. Mayor, Council, members of the audience, I do believe Mr. Keller has arrived to provide us an update. If it pleases Mayor and Council, I turn it over to Mr. Keller.
Guys, thank you for allowing me to come before you. The best thing we've got is this thing right here. We were granted wildlife sanctuary status for the Doris Wigington Park, which is, and you think about it, it's, you know, you plumb down your X amount of dollars and you get this certificate. What does that mean? I think what it means is we take advantage of this and we provide opportunities for people to go out, the same opportunities that you provided when you bought the place, Your Honor, but we do it with a little bit more formality. Birding, and Brandon said that he provided you with a slide from the woman who did the green drinks thing. This is an economic stimulus that a lot of people overlook. It's sustainable, non-usage of your resources. People come, they spend money, and they go to places like this, and this is what I envision for Doris Wigington. We started off trying to give the place, and it was fun. We remembered that there was never anything bad happened there, but it had that feeling that it was not being kept up, or that there was not a presence there. We've got 3 gates there now. We've got a 4th gate going to be built. Hopefully we will begin to open the gate at dawn, close it at dusk, give the people a little bit of security. But I think that having this is going to give us an economic stimulus that we really don't know exists. Birding, and if you'll look at that little thing that you got, 60, and I think it was $60 billion is spent on ancillary stuff that goes along with birding, such as bird seeds, bird houses. What do we do to take advantage of this? And when I came here, Your Honor, I remember thinking about what is it that's so cool about Jasper? And it's pretty here. I think we need to take advantage of what's the best thing about Jasper, and the fact that it's pretty, and we have an environmentally sound ecosystem here. And if you go out in town, there's chimney swifts, there's all sorts of things that are out there. The bears come in, deer come in. This is what we need to extol the virtues of when people come here, and I think birding is probably one of those fine things. So Doris Wigington is now a wildlife sanctuary, and what I would like to do is to have a ribbon cutting to where we get people out there. Most of the people, and it's very similar to the airport, they go, we have an airport. They didn't know that there was an airport. Most of them don't know that Doris Wigington is there. I think we need to draw attention to the fact that you have this wonderful park, that you were prescient enough to put aside the funds to purchase that. And to take them out there and say, look at this wonderful treasure that we have. And having the wildlife sanctuary, I don't think it makes it any better or any worse, but I do believe that it says we're taking time, we have a presence there, and that's what we started out to do. Having the gates locked, opening them up at sunrise, closing them at dusk, I think it gives us that presence that we need. We've also created 2 chimney swift towers out there. We now have a chimney swift tower in the back of our office here on Main Street, and we've talked about having one at our new park, the plan that was done for what's being called Perot Park now. This is what I envision. The city of Jasper, it's for the birds. It sounds funny, it sounds kind of corny, but why would we not take advantage of an economic stimulus and the beauty of Jasper to say, we've got beautiful areas, we've got parks, and a lot of times they've said, we don't have that green infrastructure. I think we do. We just know how to market. We're trying to market it a little bit differently. So Doris Wigington is now a wildlife sanctuary. I think our park up here could be a wildlife sanctuary. I think any of the pockets, your dog park could be a wildlife sanctuary. It needs water, it needs natural habitat, and it needs the certification. So this is what I envision for us. one more gate. We've got Doris Wigington to where there will not be any vehicular traffic in there without us allowing it to be in there. I think that, in a very small way, guys, I think we've stepped into what it is that we need to put forth. We need to basically say, Jasper, it's pretty, and that's why we think this is a good place for you to come, spend your money, and then go. And I thank you for allowing me the latitude to do something like this.
How many signs will we be putting up there?
John, I've got 2 of the big signs, which I think would be at the main gates, the one in the back on Jeanette, and the one on the front, which was on, and I always get it wrong, Lumber Company. And then we've got ones that are 11 by 15 that we're going to put along the perimeter of probably not the railway, but probably along Jeanette and Lumber Ridge, which more or less go along saying, we're here, we have a presence. And they're similar to this, where it says wildlife sanctuary.
I want to clarify for the record, I did not, as mayor, purchase that property. It was purchased probably 84, 85 by Mayor Newton. Yeah, that property, as well as where the nursing home is, was all purchased, one land purchased by the city, and then it was sold and subdivided to some other properties, but the city maintained that property. Out of all the other sales, Hood Park Villas was once city property, all the way back to on the Hood Road side. But anyway, what we did, it was set aside for an industrial park. Of course, after Arbor Hills was built, the industrial park was not necessarily a good idea, but an industrial park next to the residential. So take it to the park side was the council's efforts at the time. And so that's how it got to be where it is. And of course, a few years ago, we got a $100,000 grant to build the trails from the, what, that was a federal grant, I believe. You remember the initials that went with that, just a Trails grant?
DNR Trails grant?
Yeah. Okay. That being said, I'd love to take credit for buying it, but I'm afraid somebody might catch me on that.
Well, there's plenty of credit to go around, and I think that this is really just the start. This is where we do begin to go and ask for grants and ask for monies to where we could possibly get a bird-themed playground in front, and we spoke about that early on, to where the park is big enough to where it can accommodate multiple usage. And birding areas are the most passive areas. I mean, you give them a trail. You don't have to have facilities, even though having a restroom facility is nice. Having trails, you know, that are improved is nice, but most of them don't need that.
And the park was, what you see was phase 1, and we ran out of money when we spent $100,000. But at one time we planned to let that be the hub and bring a trail from Hunter's Ridge tied into Hood Park. And we actually bought a property leaving Arbor Hills, where Arbor Hills community could actually take a golf cart or a bike trail all the way into downtown following the railroad was a plan when we started this. That appears to have failed by the wayside, but it still was going to be the hub for all of northern community. And you and I talked one time, taking the trail all the way to Talking Rock.
Talking Rock to take, that's right.
So, and maybe in the future, if we could still have the bird sanctuary and still bring the world through Hood Park on the way to downtown Jasper, could still be an option in the future. But that was really discussed a few years ago.
Well, and this is not mutually exclusive of those things, which is nice, because when you have a park such as this, you're basically opening it up for multiple usage. And it seems to me the most popular usage is right now, people take their dogs out there and they run squirrels. But there are plenty of people from Arbor Hills. They like walking out there. They feel comfortable. And I think that just in our last accounting, The gates cost about $2,500, and the chimney swift towers somewhere in the same neighborhood. So we have 2 chimney swift towers, and we will eventually have 4 gates. So we're talking about $15,000. So it hasn't been a lot of money, and I don't know that we need to invest a lot more. There needs to be signage, interpretive signage, where it says, you know, this is what you're seeing, and this is why you should enjoy the environment. But I don't know that it's money, it's just the vision.
That was our goal then, it is now, I believe, and the Burger Sanctuary falls right directly in it, is that we were trying to duplicate trails you'd find at Amacola Falls or Unicoi.
Sure.
And right here in downtown Jasper, we got 80 acres with how many miles of road we finally decided, Lonnie?
Right at 6.
Yeah, 6 miles of trails in there, so it's quite the nature trail when you go there, and like I say, the biggest issue is that we've not promoted where it's at, but a lot of people have found it, so.
Well, Your Honor, take a look the next time you walk in the downtown area at dusk or at dawn and listen to the chimney swifts, and they are one of the more imperiled birds, and I don't know if your brother is protected, has purchased property where there's old chimneys, but we have a burgeoning population of chimney swifts in the downtown area. Let's take advantage of that. Let's say it's for the birds. It doesn't take a lot. It's not like, you know, and I spoke with the woman from the Audubon Society and said, would it be a far reach or too much of an embellishment to say we are the birding capital of Georgia? And she said, nobody else has said it. Why would we not? And they brought people up on Monument Road to do warbler surveys. We have plenty here. And if we could, and Sonny knows me well, I have a tendency to charge when, as my mother used to say, when angels fear to tread. But I think that having something such as this and the new park that we've spoken of, and just putting yourself out there and saying, this is us. This is what we got. It's pretty, it doesn't cost a lot of money, and I wish that we could somehow, I don't know whether it was we make bird feeders that have Jasper, it's for the birds, or something like that, where we can extol the virtues of exactly what it is that people in Jasper like. And it's pretty. It's
Let
pretty.
me ask you, since you're into birds, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I've noticed a lot more birds around my property.
Sure.
Robins and all red birds and bluebirds, or I think they're eating my seed, but they're seem like there's more of them. You've got an update on what's happened to the birds in this country?
I actually did some research on it, and it seems like and a lot of people don't believe in climate change, but it seems like with too much CO2 in the environment, the plants seem to do really well. And the plants, when they have a lot of energy, they put that energy into reproduction, which is seeds. So consequently, you see these plus signs in the population. The plants have a plus sign. There's more seed. There's consumers that have the plus sign. And you have predators up here that have the plus sign. So I don't doubt it. I don't. We've seen research that says because people put feeders out, it doesn't necessarily make the birds more dependent upon the artificial food source, that they still seem to weather very well when the seed's not put out there. So I don't know that the effect is detrimental. I think it's, as you say, and that's anecdotal, Your Honor, to say, I see more birds. But you walk out in downtown Jasper, and that chimney swift population is certainly there.
Well, when I was a child, a kid, we had field larks and a lot of different birds that you've not seen in a long time, and I think they're kind of making a comeback.
Well, and think about this, guys, as you go forward. They've got eBird, and this is tied in with Cornell. This isn't just reporting birds on your telephone. And we begin to see, from a conservation standpoint, which you know that's my forte, they've no longer gotten into the point where we need to purchase habitat on the migratory routes where you kind of rent it. You go and flood it. And because people can track where the birds are as they migrate, and we know that these birds are running straight down to Mobile from here. This is the Mobile Basin. So being able to be part of that, how how is it at Jasper? And this is where the fresh water starts. Remember that. The fresh water starts up here, it runs down to Mobile, Alabama, and we've got land protected down there at Dolphin Island and in Mobile. How can we join with some big continuum of protection? And it doesn't take anything away from us. The monetary amount that you invest in this is very little. I think all you have to do is put it on your website, Jasper, we're for the birds.
Well, the park's committed as a park because we received a federal grant of $100,000, even though the city purchased the property outright. But once you spend $100,000, if we were to change it to something else, we want to start paying those funds back. So we're committed.
Yeah, and I think that this is a conforming usage. I think if you say we are a wildlife sanctuary, we are a birding area, that it goes along with a hiking area, it goes along with a dog park, it goes along with some of the money that you've obtained for those things. So I'm glad to help, guys. It's an honor to be part and parcel of this. I was thrilled that we got this. I think it would be nice, and Brandon and I have spoken about this, if we could have either a ribbon cutting or a ceremony to where we get people to come out to the park to at least see it. And I think that you'll see that most of the people come out there and go, I've never been here. Didn't even know about it.
Best kept secret.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Dr. Keller, if you wanted to stick around, you can. If not, you don't have to. I do have another item coming up in a little bit that obviously you have definite buy-in on. But I did want to share with you all, met with our finance director, Lisa. She kind of enlightened me to some things. I inadvertently sent out a memo. And I get excited about parks. I do enjoy them. I think they're a great asset to the community. I included the memo as a refresher as to what I've mistakenly done that Lisa gracefully provided me a little clarification inside. And so included in your packet is also kind of a breakdown of this year's budget as it pertains to parks and available monies. And Lisa, I don't know if you want to just kind of, I put that piece of paper you gave me in the packet just to let everyone see if you wanted to talk off of it, or just to kind of shed some light to see what we have available.
Can I just?
Yeah, come on up.
Come on. Show y'all.
Come join us.
I just wanted to clarify how I budgeted, what was budgeted for the park for capital outlay, and where I budgeted the money to come from. So this first section up here, we've budgeted to purchase the Integra Bank branch, $100,000 for East Main Street improvements. Developing the Integra Bank, we budgeted $25,000. Paint the light poles at the ball field, $10,000. And other park improvements, $75,000. Where in the budget this money was to come from, $200,000 was coming from capital lease proceeds, that's the next section down. $100,000 coming from general fund revenues. And then we budgeted $100,000 use of the increase in the prior year's fund balance. Okay? We had a change in these budgeted revenues, which actually, the budget hasn't changed, but the council voted to not finance the Integra Bank. And that, so those $100,000 of those capital lease proceeds is taken away from the revenues funding this $310,000 above. I've added back $3,172 because that would have been in the debt service department if we had borrowed those proceeds. So that makes a change with the total budgeted revenues of $96,828, which leaves as revised budgeted revenues of $213,172. And to break that down, what's left, we have capital lease proceeds, which if we go through GMA, it can only be used, well, maybe through a bank too, for equipment. General fund revenues of $13,172, and then if we use that last year's increase in fund balance of 100,000. And according to the audited figures, our increase in fund balance for 18 only, 2018 only, was $761. Of course, we have a larger fund balance from previous years, but I just wanted to clarify that.
And part of what I wanted to do too, I think the 10,000 had been allocated of the 13,000 that you'll see in here. 10,000 had been allocated, appropriated to the painting of the poles. One thing that I've shared, and this is kind of under the guise of finance and monies and just parks, looking in terms of how, do we just appropriate that monies to parks for other items that may be of interest or need? Do we try to look at what it would cost to, on Monday night, we don't have it on tonight's agenda because it's not discussion, but Monday we will talk about the apparent low bidder for the water tank that is budgeted, but do we ask that vendor if they would be willing to give us a quote for painting and find out what that would be to see if there's any cost savings as a separate item. So I wanted to just share this with you because I think I jumped the gun and was a little overexcited about beginning some efforts on the parks side, but nonetheless, I did want to kind of give Lisa an opportunity to kind of explain some of the stuff, and it actually is governmental accounting that, quite frankly, I'm just the city manager. I'm not the finance or accountant, so I understand just enough to be dangerous. So,
me less.
So when we have like a maintenance project come up, where are we supposed to get the money for that in the parks? Or do we need this next year put in
If we do
for maintenance
maintenance-
and improvements?
If we do maintenance type projects, it'll come out of repairs and maintenance in the parks budget.
Okay, but what about like improvements? Because like over there now, the metal building is just in bad shape. It's falling in on itself. It's been broke into so many times it ain't fun. And we got equipment over there. And we need to see about getting somewhere to take care of some of the equipment and material and the stuff we have over there.
That would just have to come out of general fund revenues.
Okay, but just,
We do have a parks budget.
there was, and I checked, Lisa, recently because I was talking to Adam Wednesday, because we do have a few $1,000s allocated for repairs and maintenance. However, he's pulled the pump to get it looked at because the pump needs repairing. He got a quote of $1,800 for that, and then we are, as I've discussed with JYSA and updated the board, we are getting the batten cages improved with new chain links and new netting and new cables. So those monies fall under the specific line under the repair. So at that moment, we're probably going to exhaust that line with those two because I think we had over 3,000.
3,500 budgeted for repairs and maintenance for the whole year. Now, we do have supplies and materials budgeted for the whole year, 10,000. We've spent 6,700 of it so far.
Yeah.
so.
It's a pretty slim parks budget.
Very slim. And I think what we need to do is look at increasing it.
Well, we
as
did
much
increase it
as-
quite a bit this year.
Yeah. But I mean, with the baseball fields need attention, period.
Can I ask you a couple of questions, or maybe just one, or probably a couple about this actual, and some of this is just kind of in theory. So in theory, if we had just gone ahead and where's the
The bank.
capital lease proceeds?
Mhm.
So if we had kept that at 200,000, we would, in theory, have 100,761. And then this comes out of our, for lack of a better term, savings account, which isn't fund balance,
Yeah,
recent fund balance.
this pretty much we bought either out of this year's general fund revenues of the original 110,000. We took 100,000 and just outright bought this instead of taking the proceeds from the capital lease of 100,000 out of this line item to purchase this.
But couldn't we, and I'm not suggesting we do this, but couldn't we have gone ahead and borrowed the 200,000 and use that for parks?
Well, since it's general fund, it has to be a capital lease program, and we have done a capital lease through a bank before in the past. But
I mean, I know
y'all voted though to just purchase it outright, but
so in theory, we're going into debt to do something, which is what we originally were gonna do anyway until we kind of.
yeah, you'll have to go into debt to do something else.
Right.
The only thing, if you do a capital lease, we bought that. We have used capital lease, not with GMA though.
All this debt would have to be paid off December 31st.
Oh, a loan would,
Yeah.
but not a
For a
capital lease.
purchase, for real estate.
We got to use the development authority. We cannot make a purchase and be in debt come January. It's got to be.
Gotta go through the
City Hall was bought to the development
Yeah.
authority.
For
Yeah.
property, for real estate?
Everything.
And you're talking about,
Even though
you're talking about.
that last house we bought, it did go through the development authority, didn't it?
Everything.
Yeah.
Unless the water department buys it. It's
Because the general fund can't be,
it's an
now,
enterprise
but the
fund.
general fund can have capital lease debt, it just can't have note debt. Because that's all our equipment's on capital lease debt.
So
Okay,
for-
so that's where I was gonna
So
touch.
for any project or anything we do, it's gotta be paid off by that 31st.
The equipment is capital lease.
Yeah, equipment can be, but not property. The
Not
property
real
has to go through the development authority.
No
if you-
property.
Yeah.
So if it's,
And
He called it, I was talking to GMA today, I got a new guy at Potter who I'm talking to now, but he called it brick and mortar. You can't capital lease brick and mortar through GMA unless you've got like 700, 1,000, I think's what he told me, $700,000 worth of something you're gonna buy. This would be a very large project. I don't understand that or why, but
so the equipment, let me make sure I'm getting this right. Brick and mortar paid off by the 31st every year. Equipment is different.
You know, see, it's a lease purchase.
The lease
All
purchase.
equipment's a lease purchase, they can take it back in theory.
yeah, but you cannot have a note payable
Yeah,
in the general fund. You can in water fund, but not in the general fund.
Okay.
okay.
As a part of it, I just wanted to
I
at
just want to
least,
clarify.
at least see, because we do have some cash available. And so what staff's going to attempt to do is try to minimize some of the cash usage where we can, but there are some operational things we have to address that we've already incurred, like the pump and the netting, and we can take a look at the field house that Councilman Faust had suggested, but I think some of those purchases, whether we put those on a lease purchase opportunity, I don't know if that's a possibility. But what I wanted to do was find out what the cost is of the poles. Because quite frankly, I do not have any experience on what to even estimate. I know we allocated 10, probably 2,500 per pole, but I do not know. I don't have experience on what to expect. So either that could be reallocated elsewhere, or if we get a significant savings from a vendor.
Are these the new poles or the?
This is
Oh,
the green
existing.
poles up at the top field.
But they've rusted through the primer. I mean,
Well, I thought we were planning to take them all down and do them ourselves and that started that process. Did that, early on that started, I thought, but did it not?
On light poles.
Not that I'm aware of.
In Uptown on Main
I
Street?
think it
No,
was.
it's
They painted
different.
some of them.
We're talking about the baseball.
Ball
Oh,
field.
I'm sorry, yes. Okay.
And I'd like to see next year, is try to maybe swap them all over to LED. It'd save us a ton in the power bill.
So I did, part of this was kind of clarification for me, clarification for us, and then when I do hopefully get some positive traction on getting some solidified numbers on things where we stand with cash-wise, we can kind of approach y'all and say, hey, this is where we are now, all the while still needing, in my recommendation, needing to reserve some monies for additional maintenance or repairs, because we do have quite a number of months left of the summer. And I know there's been some discussion about playground equipment over there as well that we probably could make some improvements to repairs, but in-house. But with that, I'm not sure if there's any action. This was kind of more of an update of sorts and to kind of create the dialogue. And not that it was intended to be purely on parks, but I felt as though I've been here 4 months and I've been part of probably 3 or 4 committee meetings. Mr. Mayor, if I could go to item 3 at East Spring and Main Street Park. I know Dr. Keller, I believe, had commissioned a consulting firm to do a conceptual plan. We've included that in your packet for illustrative purposes. It had been revealed at the last committee meeting a month or so ago. I thought it was appropriate to give you all, as a collective body, once again, as Lisa illustrated, I think any sort of lease proceeds for any improvements at this would have to be for equipment or whatnot. So how we define that, how we move forward, I know the consultant was going to prepare a budget for kind of an initial phase of what to expect, whether it be restrooms, whether it be just doing some sort of additional passive improvements. You'll see on there, it looks like a new building. I did not have the consultant come this evening to give any sort of presentation, because quite candidly, I wanted, I guess, as appointed to the committee as city manager, to kind of approach the subject in good timing with Dr. Keller here. And thank you, sir, for your efforts in hiring them to do this. But beyond that, I will admit I do not have a whole lot of history or involvement in this. I've attended a few meetings. Y'all probably have way more insight or details, but I figured I'd throw it out there.
May I say something about the park?
Yes, sir.
I see a access road that goes between what is, I believe Miss Ann Roper and the Estes property. That is her driveway. And do we have an easement across that? Because
It's not her driveway, it's actually a piece of the property. And if you were to walk out there, you would see it.
her driveway is?
Her driveway is not, it's an actual.
Right next to it?
Right next to it.
Because she asked me to do something with the city about graveling it, and I told her it was her driveway, and I'm actually going to haul her some gravel personally, but okay, I recall that there was an old easement across that property, but that might not be the best to do next to her property and the Estes property, because there's not much room in between. That'd be a public drive between their property.
There's enough, and Councilman Proctor, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 30 foot wide on that.
I don't know.
It was a good.
To see it there, but.
Yeah, man, most people did not know it exists, but when I received the CAD file from the.
I recall when it was purchased, there was, matter of fact, the access to that property, I think, went to the Poole property. John Poole's house, we bought that property separate from the rest of the property.
But it is not her property, I mean, it's
It
basically.
probably went to the Poole property. John Poole lived there,
Right, that was-
and then he later sold it to me, to the city. And, okay, I forgot about the access to the Poole property.
That was a surprise to most of us as well.
I think we need to think something along the lines of meeting Miss Roper and seeing how she would feel about figuring a way to acquire that property, or that'd be a pretty good kick if it went by somebody's house. When we have all the other road frontage available, all the way down, we got one, I see 2 access there. Be very easy to kill it there. That's just a thought. That looks like a roundabout of some sort. That goes to the park.
Your Honor, that was a depiction, they really kind of were freelancing on that. What they were hoping to do was to open some of that property up for development of townhomes, which actually fit very well with the RM Edge property, which is John, Robert, and Dan and their family, and also, and I forget what his name is. What's the guy's name from down there by Georgiana, Councilman Proctor? He's an attorney, but so there's only 3 landowners that are part and parcel of that: the First Baptist Church, the RM Edge estate property, and it's terrible to get over 60 that you can't remember that.
Well, I'm over too, so.
And I think,
I'll think of it at 2 o'clock.
now that one's just pedestrian, the Greenway
Yes.
access trail.
Right.
And that was the second stage as we went forward. The first stage was to be the amphitheater area and the interactive fountains.
Okay. Just, I'd forgotten that it was going to be John Poole property, but they both used Ann's Road to get to. It never was developed. I think it's probably just brush and trees.
That's right, that's right.
But beyond that, I think what I wanted to do, being somewhat new to it, is get with Dr. Keller and the committee and the consultant and find out what kind of initial cost analysis they've done with the various phases. Because the approach they took, you'll see kind of this is a concept for the property we currently own through the DDA, I believe. And I believe kind of as additional phases, through any sort of planning phase, and it kind of put a little insert down at the bottom right corner to where I think Dr. Keller was referencing some other properties connecting throughout. But I think my attention wanted to be on what we currently control through the DDA, how we can make any sort of improvements through the lease proceeds as illustrated in this year's budget and/or subsequent budget years thereafter, just to kind of help me get caught up on kind of the who, what, when, or why, how on some of this. So I don't necessarily have any sort of clear idea of next steps other than we got to find out cost associated with it,
Right.
and then that way we can kind of come back to y'all and say, hey, you may recall the concept, you know, whatever it is, and then how do we move forward with implementing any of these measures. So,
Now, that's a project that the DDA could help us with, correct? If we decided to develop a park, have we ever done that before, Mayor?
You can make a loan and DDA would stand for it and we would pay it back.
Your Honor, if I may, one of the things, and we've spoken about this in these meetings, is being able to try and privately fundraise to fund this. I understand that it's probably necessary to get the DDA to sign off, and we've spoken about that, but it would be interesting if we could somehow put an interpretive sign that would give the preliminary plan, and then we are able to go out and solicit funds from the public. I don't know what the steps would be to do that, but it's my belief, and I think that Councilman Proctor shares some of that belief, that we could potentially raise those funds privately.
Would that be tax deductible?
Yes, it would. If we set it up, and there's 2 possible venues. The Chamber of Commerce has what's called the Chamber Champions, or I could set it up in my 501c3, where when people give the monies that they do get a charitable donation letter. That is correct.
The chamber started a tax deductible foundation. It's not real well organized, but it would benefit people that wanted to give monies for projects. We've already established a facade fund, if you will, for where the lights actually monies could go into that facade fund where they could be used for downtown things in the future. And again, it's kind of in its infancy, but it is something that
I don't think you make a donation to the city and be legally able to deduct it.
You actually could if the city were set up to where it could give charitable donation letters. We've seen that with land where there's charitable donations to a municipality, but you guys just aren't set up for it. But all it would be that you would provide them with a charitable donation letter. This Chamber of Champions is a 501c3, and Sonny, correct me if I'm wrong, they have received their 501c3 designation, as has my organization.
I would like to check with our auditors and GMA, because I've been here a while and not heard of such. Sounds like a good idea to me, but I'd be careful when I try to send that to Uncle Sam for tax deduction.
Sure. But there are options to whereas we could potentially raise these funds privately and people could get a tax benefit for it.
I'm sure there's a way, but I know when using the city, we collect taxes, not donations.
And with that, like I said, this was mainly just for my benefit too, because I saw it, I thought it was good to share, and I think the committee had agreed that it was primed for sharing now, and that way.
Just a kind of an interjection, the development authority, if they own properties, can make donations. And across the state, actually, and that's one of the ways that you can incite people. I don't know about the downtown development authority, I'm talking about the industrial authority, which is a little bit different than ours because they're kind of an entity to their own, and whereas our development authority is a governing body. So there are some ways that cities and counties can donate properties to incite businesses to come.
I just would be concerned telling someone that they can have a deduction and they get audited. And we've accepted donations before, and matter of fact, we accepted all of that land at off of Noah Drive.
Yes.
And their accountants worked it such that they got a heck of a deduction for it. So
and most municipalities do indeed accept donations, and I think it's simply the notification back to the donor of that donation.
Whatever their accountant said, I said thank you very much and good luck. So
Before we move on real quick, I would like to say that this is going to change our downtown in a very positive fashion. This is going to create an environment and an atmosphere that is robust, for a lack of a better term. This has many functions behind it and so many uses for future generations. And it seems that this, with the greenage, if we incorporate nature in this, it would be seamless into our surroundings, which is really important. We do not want something to stick out like a sore thumb. And the one thing that came to mind when I saw this was I would love with this layout to just keep in mind that we have a farmer's market that needs a home to call their own.
Yes.
And if we could have a farmer's market in downtown Jasper on every Saturday and them have a home, I think that would be.
well, have you ever talked to the farmers market? They love
do.
Councilman Raphael, they actually integrated that thought into this, that there would be an area there that you could use that. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. And Your Honor, you've made the statement on numerous occasions about making sure that the people didn't have to pay taxes. Think about how much better it would be if we could privately raise the funds to do something like that without having to go to the taxpayer.
I'm all about raising the money. That's just, I just know that there's an issue with government giving tax breaks to the federal government. So you get a call from Uncle Sam saying, I wouldn't want to make a donation to the city unless it's a tax. I make one every year. Anyway, that's been my concern with it. So, but I did accept the land, and they got a tax break evidently, or they wouldn't have given it to us. They got it mainly from the county and to getting rid of it. They didn't have to pay property tax to the city and or the county. But there was also a big federal break somewhere there.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think you and I, it seems like it's been a lot longer, but it hasn't been that long ago. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had the pleasure of meeting with the county, along with a couple other city representation. Thanks, Dr. Keller.
Thank you, sir.
And ultimately, I don't know if you want to take a look, I kind of put in here kind of a mirrored schedule. The mayor brought up to the county that it would behoove all of us to kind of reconnect as frequently as possible to discuss funding formulas and/or project lists. And I wanted to broach this up tonight and kind of keep you all informed about what the schedule. And if you wanted to look backwards to forwards in terms of from the fact that what statutorily the county attorney has stated would be the required minimum in terms of getting any sort of a referendum onto the ballot in November, they need to adopt it on the 19th. So I kind of put in there some notes.
It's the 19th of
September.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And put some notes in there for us in terms of, I think historically, Labor Day, we would not meet, I don't think. It would be first Monday, so I think, Mayor, you probably want us to meet the second Monday.
It always
night.
has been.
So I just put that in there and kind of work backwards. Mayor, I'll let you kind of take over from there. And
Well, I'll just tell the council bluntly that I have been part of probably 4 SPLOST negotiations. And in the early days, the county dictated to the county and, the county dictated to the city what we would get, if anything. And then there was some laws changed at the state, making the city a little more of a, especially the county seat, a little more viable at the table. And I think most of the viability comes in if the city don't sign off, the city of Jasper does not sign off on the referendum, they can only have a 4-year referendum. And if we do sign off on it, they can go for a 6-year. And that's what we were the last time. But with that position of the city going for the 6-year, and plus a lot of arguing with county officials over the years before the commissioner presently, I've been through several commissioners, and they don't really see the need for city government being as viable as the city of Jasper is. And just give you a quick update before I give you the bluntness. I'm not being as blunt as I was going to be. I'm going to give you a little bit of history. We discussed all the way back to House Bill 489, and we that's where we solved the service delivery strategies, and then we approached the county when Don Molinax was in office. I'm going to say 96 or 97, and maybe no 95 or 96. We wanted to go from 15% of the local option sales tax to a higher ratio, and we thought 50% would have been a good number back in the day, and of course they didn't. And we actually had video here at City Hall where we had the RDC at the time here representing the county more so than the city, but we actually had the meeting here, and we showed all the traffic that we had at the time in those days, and it was not anywhere near it as today, but we showed all the business that the city had, and we showed all the other items that the city of Jasper provide for all the citizens of the county, the parks and the roads that we had, and the sewer and the water for the businesses, and all the sales tax that were collected in the city. And finally, we were able to convince the Commissioner Molinax, which is a very generous gentleman, and saw the needs of the city and how it would enhance the county. And he took us from 15% to 25.6%, and actually gave Nelson and Talking Rock a little bit of the local option sales tax. So we carried the same theme into trying to get the SPLOST passed. And just a few years ago, you remember the little pennies, was one of the little postcards that were sent out and by Max Keller, and we were able to get the county on board, and we were all excited, and they agreed to give us 20%. And we agreed to sign off, and we got 6 years of 20%. We just like a few more miles of paving all the roads in Jasper, and at that time, we had put a lot of tar in the cracks of Jasper's roads, and now, this year, hopefully we'll get them all paved. But the meeting that I went into the other day, I felt that same cold shiver going down my back when I was talking to Bill Quinton, and believe it or not, Billy Newton didn't like things of giving the city much money, and Frank Martin would consider a penny. But Robert gave us, I didn't mean that personally, Billy, when you re-see this, but Robert agreed to give us the 20%. But I also, a few years ago, I went to the commissioner back in 6 or 7 when we had a SPLOST referendum, and I wanted $8 million. And no one knows what that was about, but we were going to build a swim center, much like you find in Clarksville, Georgia, over at Doris Wigington Park. And I thought it was a wonderful idea, and it would have been provided a tremendous service for the city and the county, but shot down it was, and we did not get any money until the very end. But right before the sales tax ended, we got $130,000 of several million that the county collected over the years, and 80% of that was collected inside the corporate limits of Jasper. So that being said, Commissioner Jones, I had that cold shiver when I felt like they were not going to offer us the same as we had in the last 6 years. So council, you need to bow up, grow up, get ready, because they're going to try to cut us back. And the number I saw was 13%. All they wanted to do is talk about our population and how that's all we were entitled to. So there's going to be a heck of an argument. There's going to be a lot of politics. There's going to be a lot of discussion. There's going to be a lot of garland of the teeth. And we're going to have to make a decision if we're going to settle for less or not, or we're going to hold out, or we're going to campaign against a SPLOST. And we deserve to bring the corporate limit of Jasper along with what the county wants to. They'll soak it into all the departments of the county. From the sheriff's department, sheriff is there, wanting his share of it, as well as Nelson and Talking Rock. But that's pretty much what I brought back from that meeting. What did you pick up, Brandon?
And it was 12.5%.
Oh, 12.
Yes, not the.
Well, there's a lot more to determine the city's value than just our population. We've got more businesses in town than we have households. So, well, not quite as many, but we've got to be recognized for our business, for our street lights, for everything that we offer Jasper, Georgia, which is every bit of Jasper is absolute cadab in the middle of Pickens County. And so I want to hold out for the 20% because you're going to need it over the next 5 years or 6 years, or 4 years or 6 years. And that's going to be the extent of it. And probably Monday night, I'm going to form a committee. And you can go argue and complain with the county commissioner, and you'll get all the TV time and all the newspaper time, because there's going to be a hell of an argument. And otherwise, you're going to get 13% versus 20%, or 12.5%. And I wouldn't settle for it personally, but.
So can I ask a quick, the 4 year, if we say we don't agree and it's 4 years, so at the end of that 4 years, it's 2 years or nothing, or do we, at the end of the 4 years, you get to
4 years, it's done.
and
You got to have another referendum.
Okay.
But let me tell you about politics and sales tax. Most terms don't last but 4 more years, and every commissioner thinks the next term is going to be the last, and they like to have it all for 4 years. So that's what they're going to say, and I'll be able to call them out on that, or you'll be able to call them out on that argument. But the city of Jasper deserves the 20%, and we deserve to build sidewalks and maybe put money toward this park, or maybe toward whatever your budget will be. You want to sit here and argue about and figure, or not worry about how we're going to paint 6 light poles. So this money would be well spent inside the corporate.
And so just keep that in reference in terms of, we have been in contact with Chairman Jones's office to try to ascertain some of the numbers, and I think they are trying to look at overall what projections would be, and then I think what they're going to do is try to entertain us for some additional meetings, and I wanted us to be in a position of approaching the subject now, so that as we move forward, we can minimize any sort of special call, but ultimately have some good dialogue on establishing what the numbers are going to be, and then from that, develop a project list and our buckets that we could then put forward on an agenda for formalizing a referendum. If
Well, we want to need that so we can educate them what our needs are. They don't know what we need.
Well,
You know, they
You're
have
exactly
no,
right.
they don't have no idea. We need fire stations, we need another fire truck or two. We gotta do something down on the south side of the highway. We can't just go buy these things left and right.
well, we're also, one thing I mentioned to them that day, because we were caught off guard. They wanted that meeting and one more to finalize, and we were done. Did you pick up on that?
they did give us the statutory minimum schedule, which I've included in the package as well. And I think there was an acknowledgement that they will entertain some
Yes, they will.
additional meetings. So I think that was
But
clarified.
John, to your point, is we're about to spend $8 to $10 million on sewer treatment. We need to spend quite a few more dollars on sidewalk that we really haven't gotten to this time.
Well, like I
So
said,
you've got a lot of things. So Monday night, I want to form a committee, and this committee needs to work hard, because this is going to be a time you'll be lead dog at the meetings and discussing with the county as to why they should give us this money and they're going to say why they shouldn't.
Well, that's the main thoroughfare that makes this whole county run.
You already got the game down.
Yeah.
You're going to be on the committee.
But I'm serious, we need a fire station, and we could put a little police, what do they call them, precinct out there. Because, I mean, dude, they're going to 515 every time we turn around, and we need it.
Those things are what we got to discuss. And I feel like, personally, I always have, and it's been my forte, I guess, is the city of Jasper is good for Pickens County and vice versa, but we provide a heck of a service for the county, and I'm a pro-city person. I think cities all over the state, there was an effort one time to do away with a lot of cities, now they're forming more cities. I always felt that if Tate had been a city incorporated with a council, they'd be further along in their development than they are. So we got to prove our value to the voters of Pickens County, because really people in Pickens County some of the voters don't like the city getting anything because they're not a resident of the city. But as they drive through and take advantage of what the city has to offer, that's what we got to argue.
Well, that's what we got to educate them. It's true.
Been there, done that. So, in fact, I think you wrote one of the last sections.
You remember.
But you'll be good at it.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead and follow up. I didn't mean to take over.
no, that was it. I just wanted to broach the subject, and then that way kind of gauge how we move forward, and with the committee appointment Monday, and kind of then hopefully we'll have some more information to share, and kind of just keep some deadlines in mind in terms of, as you kind of set your personal calendars to make sure we can make meetings, the regular meetings, first Mondays for decisions. Next one may be a little different. There is an existing building next to Smoke and Mo's, formerly known as Wingsology, 69 North Main. During a plan review with the building department, it was revealed that there's a marble step kind of impeding, approaching out onto the sidewalk. And quite candidly, I never acknowledged or noticed, but visiting the site, I noticed that line of sight all the way down to the bank, there was no other steps or anything along the sidewalk. And the reason why I was out there was the owner had wanted to look at improving access, not doing some sort of switchback ramp system, but just to essentially protrude out another foot, which does still give continued clearance on the sidewalk, and kind of ramp down a little bit at her expense. But you'll see a memo that I've composed to City Attorney Pickett. He and I actually talked about this. He said that this is a council decision, So it would need to go before council, Mayor, if you want to put it on the agenda.
Absolutely. Who's the owner? Who are we discussing?
To Brandy,
Strong,
pardon?
strong,
Strong.
Is that the property right next to Mo's?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
old natural market.
And,
I can't, I remember the step because there was no way to access it
Yep.
into the building, but,
Is that floor just higher than the rest of them on?
It is, and I would encourage you between now and.
you know what the option to do is you don't come out, you go in,
Yeah.
into their building.
She did explore that option with the architect, and there was some challenges to that, so that's why there will be, basically what happens is, and Bill and I talked, there's already, in essence, an encroachment by virtue of that step. So to improve access, he felt comfortable not just giving her the ability to improve it, but to at least acknowledge that the city would be granting an encroachment easement that
Something that's already-
is not in perpetuity, that it's at the discretion of.
That's the only one that comes out in the sidewalk.
Yes.
There needs to be some guardrails on it, is there?
Yes, what she's
To keep people
proposed.
Are you
walking
saying
into-
currently?
Somebody can trip it, yeah.
No.
It actually needs a little,
Yeah.
something to
So,
make you hit here before you trip on it.
and that's
That would be taken care of with this.
admittingly, I will say to y'all, when the fire marshal and I talked, just looking over the plans, my position as city manager was no.
There's nothing out.
That would have been
But
mine too.
I actually visited the site and prepared to explain the reasoning behind it because of my previous experience with older downtowns and because it's not changing the use to an assemblage because it's staying below the threshold of 50 people. There is not the need for egress, ingress, accessibility, similarly on the backside. So that's eliminated from my perspective. But then out there, Mayor, I looked and I thought, well, I'm gonna actually advocate for talking to y'all about it and seeing if y'all wanna talk about it Monday. And at that moment, I can have the building owner here to discuss and/or tear out the plan sheet where she had originally asked to kind of show you what you're talking about. It's not a dramatic, because at first it seems, but I think it would be pretty received, but let y'all.
Well, the grade there drops from what used to be more
Mhm.
down to Wingside, what is now Mo's,
Yeah.
top in the past, but the grade was going to have to be steeper if we'd have caught up to their stoop. And I just vaguely remember that being an issue it was actually going to, from there down, it had been too much of a grade.
We'd
So
have to
we
have
allowed the
set
stoop to
sidewalk.
stay there. Because prior to that, we removed all the Coke machines and Pepsi machines from Main Street and caught enough grief over that, and moving people's utilities to the back. There was a lot of grief, so I guess that's why we left that particular time, without taking it inside the building.
So if I could, I've been out. Yes, so I've been out on site and I've looked at it. Her plan for her business is one that will attract children in all ages and also adults. The concept is desserts from around the world. Her vision for this business is that every child, no matter what life circumstances they have, are able to access this facility. So whether they have a disability or not,
She should have done it for Walmart property.
so she doesn't want to exclude anyone, and I commend her for that. That's a high cause, noble cause there. With this being the only facility, I'm a huge advocate for people doing things like this to be inclusive for children.
Well, we don't want them to trip over and bump their face.
Correct.
So that they'll end up with a lawsuit against the city of Jasper, and looking at that stoop, we need to address it anyway.
Yes.
So I'd like to put it on the agenda, Mayor, and have her come and just kind of give y'all some more information. And then that way we can kind of talk about it and discuss it. The next item is
Put a Coke machine next to it.
it is nothing more than Mr. Dunn had been asked by you all to come back at the June 3rd meeting under old business. So I've put in there an email. You'll see the original quote he provided, as well as an email that I sent out to Universal asking the questions that y'all asked during the meeting. So he'll be prepared, Mr. Dunn will, on Monday. And I've explained to him, and as I'll reiterate again, in light of the conversation Lisa and I, this was not a budgeted expense, so keep that in mind as we go into, and I don't want to preempt anything, I just want to give information. So with that, the next one, yes,
The snowflakes had a whole bunch of money. I mean, we could do a lot more garland if we didn't do the snowflakes. And it's only 2 of them. I'm not supporting one way or the other, but.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and I think
They're $1,250 a piece or $1,225 a
Picture
piece.
with a snowflake.
Yeah, right here.
And I do think that is good information to kind of look at. We compare Monday.
Whatever happened to that?
They would have one strand on the front, one strand on the back.
They're about halfway done with just the lights on the buildings. But
Yes.
I'm just saying we could buy a lot more garland. Do stuff with it.
And I will say that I kind of teed this up during the last meeting to let y'all know that, and it's only gotten worse, and this is not anything that I'm trying to sensationalize, it's just the reality. I believe that it would behoove us all to take some action on a garbage truck. I think I wanted to use this work session as an opportunity to give some direction on how y'all like for us to present some information Monday for a decision. There's an option 1, option 2. Option 1 is essentially utilizing the same standard of a 10 or 11 yarder, compaction of 5+ tons, costing anywhere from the bids we've gotten 120 something to 140 something. Or kind of a creative, I think, more mobile, more maneuverable option. And talking with the superintendent, I think he's kind of got some buy-in on understanding that a smaller 8-yard rear loader, which could still do about a 4-tonner, more mobile, would be about $100,000. And I am trying to get additional quotes for Monday if y'all want us to pursue that as an option, so then that way I can present y'all kind of a low bid for decision. Right now, I don't know how present there are of these 8-yarders, because it's pretty unique to certain communities.
Quick question, Brandon. The small truck, you wouldn't have to have a CDL driver, right?
Correct, and that's part of why I wanted to, number one, in conjunction with the smaller 8-yard, you could also get on a state contract a pickup truck, and then you could put something like a park-in body, which is essentially a large device that they would install in the bed of the pickup truck, to where when we do go into areas of serving the community and the guys pick up the garbage and put it in the back of the truck, currently it's just kind of exposed as they go to town, and then they have to unload by hand into the truck, compacted and move forward. This park-in device on the bed of a truck, from what I'm understanding, and I don't have first-hand experience with it, is you throw it in the back, then you could back up to the spare that we have here on site, back up to it, it raises up, it dumps it in, raise back down, and then they can compact it in the truck, in essence having like a compactor that could then go off to the dump, one of the pickup trucks en route, not taking the 8-yard rear loader off the route to give time to dump. So trying to create some efficiencies all the while doing business. I think we could probably, I think Lisa said we had budgeted to finance 140 this year, 6 months worth of debt service. So it is within, I think, an allowable budget, and we'll also look at, once again, if y'all would like for us to just come to y'all with those options again Monday, and vet it, or if y'all just want us to focus on option 2 and try to build more quotes on
Well, who's got one of these units that you know?
immediately available, I didn't know that.
You're talking about in use or for
I
sale?
don't see if we could borrow one, just try it, see what it's like.
So he's talking about in use by municipality, I guess.
Oh, the only one I know of right offhand is Athens. Now, it's the same as our 11-yarder in terms of the rear loader, flatbed, compaction, it's just smaller. So in terms of the usability of it, the guys wouldn't know any difference, except it would just probably compact about a ton less. But I'm thinking that the efficiencies we're gaining through the pickup of the park and the maneuverability, we would pick up any extra time that we're going to the dump. So that's just kind of a thought.
Well, I appreciate the options. Yeah,
Which one you like?
I don't know yet. That's tricky.
Well, I mean, I'd like to,
Well, they have a ride, every day, guys, you'll take a ride with them, you learn a lot.
Go to the new mode.
And I can certainly, obviously, I'm prepared to do the exact same thing Monday. I will try to get additional quotes. The appeal that I had was the immediate availability on the 8-yarder. I believe there was one on the option 1, the larger. I think there was one available in 30 to 60 days, which is still good because the lead time can be up to 360 days, which discouraged me because on yesterday, both trucks were down. We were able to get it back up and running by lunch, but it is frustrating for the department, and I just want to help provide the resources.
how about a short-term lease, just to see if it's gonna work or not work? That way we're not stuck with it, if it doesn't work.
Well, it would be a lease purchase, so I do not know how that would work in terms of the arrangement of if we decided not to make any payments, if they come and get it.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Well,
But that's,
I mean, it's a new idea, there ain't nothing wrong with trying new ideas.
I can see if that's an option. I just wanted to formalize it, because at the time, last month, I just thought we were good status quo, but just something different. So I'll get some more quotes on option 2 and get some clarification on financing options. Lisa did check, and GMA is offering 5 and 7, or 6 and 7.
4.12 on a 6-year, I think 4. I may be wrong. I think it's like 4.17 if we did a 7-year
Okay, yeah.
lease
It
purchase.
was very, the
Pretty low.
difference was, I mean, not that I don't know, but hey, let's go out and get just a point.
You can take that money and pay for an Integra bill. Take that lease, but I think that's against the law.
So with that, the other thing that I'm admittingly not as well versed in trying to ask, so I put it in writing, because I believe last October, there had been a decision made on rezoning some property, about 60-something acres behind Piedmont for a PUD use, planning and development. And I believe there had been a disconnect from the developer and Doris city staff in terms of what would be expected in terms of coming back before y'all. Clearly, they have really taken advantage of the good weather, and they've gotten about 72 townhome pads prepared with the infrastructure installed. And they have not gotten a review from the collective body. So I advise them that I'm in a position of wanting to support their efforts to make this, because I think the buy-in from the community and the council was positive. So I want to make it work, but I did not want to forego letting you all see the site plan. You'll see the conceptual that they presented along with the actual plat. I believe their land developer had not received some final write-offs from the city, and so they have respectfully asked that we do anything possible to help move this along. And I do not know, Mayor, if this is something that you all would like to be presenting it on Monday, or if y'all are comfortable with. We did utilize Clark Patterson Lee. The next day we had a meeting with Clark Patterson Lee, the consulting firm. I did send this to them to verify that the full plan set. They did send the full plan set with grading, utilities, almost the as-built on site. So it is a pretty legitimate, not pretty,
How does this differ from what we approved?
I don't think it is, because they've not gotten far along. This was just the initial townhome.
Could you not approve this administratively?
That's what I wanted to see clarification, because I was under the impression that you all wanted to see it.
Well, we like to be kept up to speed with it, but we don't want to sit there and review the plan. That's your job.
So I'm comfortable with this component, and there's an expectation that any deviations from the colored rendering master plan, because as plans change.
I see extra parking. That would be my concern, that they have parking for the visitors.
Yes, sir.
That's where your calls really come from.
So if y'all are comfortable, I can kind of move forward and get some comments from Clark Patterson, but ultimately I will say that it was a good, complete plan set that was provided. They had just, it was a disconnect, and so wanted to bring it up.
Have they done any more detailed drawings of the entire plan that you know of?
They have not, and I've even asked for the architectural for the actual townhomes themselves, because I didn't want to, not that you all want to be intimately involved in the plan review, but what I wanted to do was also take the building plans and submit those to Clark Patterson for kind of an expedited review as well. But they do now know, and we have an established relationship, that any additional phases of the overall will need to be looked at, and for me to be able to account to y'all what's going on. They do know that there's going to have to be some roads changed, moved because of elevations. Maybe this building's not going to go here, maybe it's going to go over here, and this one's eliminated. Those are the things that it doesn't affect the zoning, it affects the layout, but it is still crucial for you all to be kept informed. So
There's some things that I've actually had conversations with Neil about, Neil Hughes, who's the developer, as it relates to a PUD. Their conceptual plan doesn't necessarily meet those criteria, and I just want to make sure that we and they stay ahead of that, so that we can address it before it becomes short order. There's no green space on there, and also there's a hotel on there that is not a commercial, accepted commercial use for a PUD. So I just want to make sure if that is part of their long-term plan, that we make sure that we do whatever we got to do to either do a
They
variance or
can
whatever.
lodge it in with their residential? I thought that was what the
I don't
mixed
think
use is.
on the commercial, there's kind of limited numbers. I don't think hotels on there, so
Always.
maybe,
We might need to add it, but we didn't
yeah.
know.
Well, I was,
I thought it was.
I mean, that's something that maybe our consultants can tell us, since that's supposed to be there for too.
we gotta pay them to tell us when we just read the ordinance.
We got a hospital right next door, so it's pretty biggest hotel you can have.
Yeah, and
We-
I think
we
one
care.
thing that had been brought up is the flight plan for the airport, and I don't, that's even lower than the hospital, and I
Yeah.
don't think, but the FAA will weigh in on that. I mean, they have a little formula, you can actually go online.
They still have this, we're talking about phase 2 of that, correct? Over toward the pond, or is that over toward the lodging, the house? That's
The housing will be here.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this is where, they're on the backside, the
Yeah.
furthest from the
That's
hospital.
phase 1, isn't it?
Mhm.
They didn't really phase it that well, but they, I do know that they have, been talking to the assisted living folks that are
I thought that's what it was gonna be, the first, early stage.
townhomes and then I think maybe assisted living is next, yeah. It's, apparently an organization that's, been quite successful and well touted across the state. There is a ribbon cutting for the chamber. It's June the 16th or something. It was the 20th, it's changed, but, and when I just happened to be out there the other day, I met the, real estate lady and the lady from the Piedmont, it's not Piedmont Hospital, it's Piedmont, the builders of the townhomes. They're top notch.
It's coincidental.
Yeah. I go there more for my cardiac rehab.
I'm gonna also put on the agenda some committee reports. I understand you appointed a committee in my absence last month. I'd like to get an update on that, so I'm gonna put a spot on the agenda for committee reports. We've not had any committee reports in a while. And since we've become a committee-run city, we're gonna need to get some more updates so everyone knows what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of things I learned tonight that I didn't have a clue, and it's kind of odd for me not to know. So, I guess that's what I get to do with the first Monday. We're just gonna list all the standing committees and the committee that is the Economic Development Committee that was appointed last month. I'm not gonna override you, John, I'm gonna let you have that one. See what happens. I'd like to have an update Monday, because I don't know what's going on. I've been hearing rumors what's going on, so. Just add committees. Y'all had a meeting?
We had
Conference.
a conference call with one of the consultants, and we're having a meeting tomorrow.
With county?
The whole committee.
There's 6 people that were.
The county appointed committee?
Three from this.
We don't, tell us
Okay.
money,
All right.
Looking forward
That's
to
why
it.
I just said yes.
Looking forward to it. All right, that's just add that for me if you will, and we can do it in our mayor's report or whatever. Don't need to be an item for action.
Thank you, sir.
One question, and this is a very nitty-gritty detail, I just didn't want to forget it. When we're dealing with SPLOST, and we're going through this negotiation period is what I'll call it, one project I would like to keep in the back of everyone's mind, something I brought up a while back, between the county parking lot where the elections building is and our city park, I believe it's very warranted to have a lit crosswalk. Whether it's funded through SPLOST by the county or the city or half and half, I believe that project is something to keep in the back of our mind.
And the mayor will probably agree with you.
Well, you did the first
I almost
one.
lost John there.
This is a different one, we did one already,
Yeah.
right? Did we
No,
do one already?
no.
We talked about this one before.
We did,
Okay.
we did.
Well, it's
It's neat.
dangerous, lit or not, with children crossing back
Yeah,
and forth. I hate to encourage that too much, but I guess it's the best way to take care of them. We'll be happy to hear your presentation. Put that on the agenda. We'll let you make a presentation on it.
We did.
I don't know if you're gonna get SPLOST money for it or not. But that's something, you need to be thinking of projects, because we're gonna have to come up with 20% or we'll get 12%.
And that's a very small one, no, I just didn't want people to forget.
No, that's another item, it's something that's probably not in the budget. And it's going to have to be, what's terrible is to have a stop sign that is poorly marked, or a crosswalk that is poorly marked and not done properly, and then you end up someone hurt, and the city is gonna be liable, and we got several of those poorly marked around town that's been that way forever, such as a stoop in the middle of the sidewalk. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, sir.